Good afternoon. My name is Billy Chester, and I have the distinction of being born and raised in the village of Lawrenceville, Phillips Avenue. I also have the distinction of having grandparents that lived at 111 Louisville. It was 294 Louisville Road. It's now 111 Louisville Road. When my grandfather bought a liquor van in 1925 and had 8 children born in that house and raised an abundance of grandchildren, 65 as well. What a beautiful life on Louisville Road. I am Black History because I'm making history myself here in Lawrenceville still. So today I join my friends up here on the dais to tell our story about Lawrenceville.
Louisville Road is a home. It didn't matter what you were or what color you were. If you're on Louisville Road, you're all family. Every last one of us. My great grandson, right now, on Louisville Road, we are the oldest and the youngest.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cousin Pam. And for those of you that do know me, I am nervous. I am 4th generation Bosley, Lecomte, Ferguson, Stiggers, Thomas. So I am 4th generation, and Beezy is 7th generation. He's the youngest of our family to grow up on Louisville Road, so he's 7th generation. Easy. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Jay Thomas, and I was the youngest to be born, I was born at the hospital, but born on Louisville Road and spent my early childhood there. So I understand the emotion for sure, and hearing the history, sitting in here is probably wonderful, but to live it and see the history and the cracks in the road and the stories behind different things, that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much to our panelists. So we're going to get right into our panel discussion. And our first question is, what is the history of Louisville Road? And what importance does it have to you?
Okay, I'll answer that. So in 1913, Amos and Charlotte Bosley purchased a home. There were 7 children. There were 4 young ladies. There were a set of twins, and there was a single man, Uncle Allen. So the family actually started there in 1913 on Louisville Road, and that was the old estate of Amos H. Bosley. From there, there was a second generation, and that included Francis, Lavinia, Charlotte, Florence, Hurst, and Clarence, who were twins, and Uncle Allen. That was the second generation. The third generation was my mother's generation. So there were 5 houses. The first house had 1 child, that was Ann Barber. The second house was the Bosley house, Uncle Clarence. There were 5 children, so that's 6. The third house was my grandfather's house. There were 5 children, so that's 11. The next house was the Jordan house. There were 3 children. That were 14. And then the last house, which is where Glen lives now, and the only existing house on the road, there was 1 child and PC, so that was 15 children. So within 5 houses, there were 15 children that were born and raised on Louisville Road from birth until the men went to the military. There were also 5 cousins who lived behind those houses, and they were boys, and their last name was Anderson. So within 6 houses, there were 20 children that grew up on one street. So the stories that I've heard, there was nothing but good times. My grandfather was Fred LeComte. He built the house. He built woods. We had black walnut trees, we had peach trees, we had apple trees, 3 different kinds of apple trees. We had strawberries, we had blackberries, we had blueberries, we had snapper turtles too. We had, let's see what else. Oh, tomatoes, gardens. And so my grandmother didn't work. She did work. She raised 5 children, but she stayed home. And so all the food and things that we grew, my grandmother would fix them for the winter and store them in the basement. So there was food consistently throughout the winter. I also remember, let's see what else I remember. I'll tell you a funny story. And then I'll drop the mic. So there was a teacher in Lawrenceville. Her name was Miss Titus. I don't know if anyone remember or knew Miss Titus. Miss Titus was she had black socks, blue shoes, long skirt, hair in a bun, horn rimmed glasses, and when you first saw her, the sweetest lady. However, Miss Titus was correctly built, let me tell you. So this was, I guess, closer to the last set of children growing up and going to Lawrenceville. Miss Titus was going through the roster the first day of school. And she said, let's see, we have Elise Stacy, we have Bosley, Jordan, Turner, Brooks, Chester, and then she said, Emma. And she threw the paper down because she had taught all these students every year for years, yeah. And then I also had Miss Titus in 3rd grade. So she was there for years and years and years. So that's my funny
Growing up as a kid here, we had, let's say, how can I put this? Boy, this is not my job.
Take your time.
I want to say one thing about to the police force, Jack Maple, my favorite officer. When I got into a little problem, he didn't come and harass me. He went to my mother, which was the worst thing he could have done. As I raised my kids on Louisville Road, Jack Maple came to me about my son in the go-kart that I allowed him to ride in the prep school. So once again, Jack came to me, didn't bother my son. And that's an officer that I would always respect. And our pastor.
record, Miss Titus was not sweet. I mean, she showed me another side. And maybe she took all that she took from all our families. And when I got there, she definitely scared me straight. Excuse me. And Jack Maple, he talked to me a few times too. But at some point I became a police officer in Lawrence Township. And had quite a career there. Louisville Road spanned 1.2 miles from Franklin Corner Road to Princeton Pike. And Louisville Road has its challenges. Now, I'm not that old, but I remember dirt roads, no sewers, cesspools, if you know what that is, where the grass grew real green out back. Cesspools. But everybody on Louisville Road, from one end to the other, no matter what color they were all family. As a child, you learned how to respect and have respect for yourself and respect for your family. But the same respect applied to everybody's family. Every adult you had respect for. Because they could tell on you, and there was no questioning about, well, are you sure he did it? Or are you sure it was him? The code was, you bring him to me, and then your parents would handle it from there. Living in Lawrenceville and having a real tight association with Louisville Road was the best life that anyone could have. There was an abundance of everything, but more than anything was abundance of love. Everybody loved each other up on Louisville Road. You didn't have to worry about a meal. You didn't have to worry about anything, and time seemed to be endless. Now, I could go on and on about Louisville Road. There's surely not enough time here to get deep into Louisville Road. But these group of people that I sit here with, the others that aren't here in life because they've passed on, and we're carrying the torch in history for the ones that are still here. And Louisville Road and Lawrenceville and Lawrenceville Prep sandwiched in between, priceless. So I'm proud to be up here. I'm proud to be amongst you ladies and gentlemen to talk about Louisville Road. Proud, proud, proud. And I don't know if I can say African American community. I mean, Miss Huber, she's back there somewhere. She wasn't African American, but she was an aunt too. And just the way of life was very, very different and priceless and well valued.
So my answer is a little bit different. Still awesome, but different. And this is my mom. Probably should shout that out. So there's two generations up here. But the stories that were lived, for me growing up, I learned them. And so when you ask what is the history of Louisville Road, the people that are not here, looking down, seeing us sitting here, like that's it. That would be my answer. That's it.
Thank you so much for all of your stories and sharing. It means so much. You all touched on this in different ways, but what made Louisville Road feel like a community?
I'll start. Let's see. So, and let me just shout out the choir, because when I was at Lawrence High School, we did not have a gospel choir. So that alone is like, feel like community. So, like a few people have said earlier, my best, earliest memory of a neighbor, her name is Julie Klockner, and she lived next to my grandmother, and she was about 2 inches taller than me, and we explored every step of Louisville Road together. I spent many days over in the living room of their house, out back with the pets and animals. But as you said, as we were exploring, there was not a house, a door, a person that you would encounter that was not friendly. That also gave us that eye if it was getting late to get home. And there were quite a few people over here at the prep school that let us explore, and I know we were not supposed to be over here. So the community aspect is, as it has already been said, you could go anywhere on Louisville Road, and it was a community.
So I just want to talk a little bit about the talent that was on Louisville Road. We had an aunt Pete, who was in the chorus line with Lena Horne. She also hung around with Ethel Waters, Head Bates, Fats Waller, Duke Ellington, and then we had one of the Bosley, Uncle Alan, who played with Count Basie, as well as Great Park and Nassau Inn. And I think what made community was we were taught a strong family bond. That was the first thing. We were taught faith and spirituality with the church. That was the second thing. We were taught resilience to withstand hardships and recover from trauma. We were taught that as well. We also were introduced to a strong work ethic and a hustle. And we were taught courage and activism, justice, equality, civil rights. And when I began to go to Lawrence Elementary School, the Lawrence Township Board of Education wouldn't give us a bus. So they expected us to walk to school. So for those of you that have been on Louisville Road, if you start at the end, which is Princeton Pike, come down Louisville Road to Franklin Corner Road, there were no sidewalks there. Sidewalks have just been put there since that nursing home was built there. So they expect us to walk down Franklin Corner Road, down 206, and then across 206 to Craven Lane. Well, we couldn't do that. It was too much. So we had to cut through the prep school. Well, that was the best thing that ever happened to us. Let me tell you. Because we used to come from school, we would leave school, across the street, we would come to the field house, we would play gymnastics, we would jump on the balance beam, we'd swing on the ropes in the gym, we swam, we did track and field, we were all in the field house. We had a great time, and it was good fun. We also had uncles who worked at the prep school. So my Uncle Steve drove the Zamboni at the Lawrenceville skating rink. We ice skated. Like, people would say, "Oh, do you guys skate?" We're like, "Yeah, we ice skated." We kind of looked like ice skating because most folks were roller skating, but we were ice skating. So we had a great time over here. Let me tell you, it was really a good time. So I'm thankful for the Lawrenceville Prep School and for those who let us stay and play after school from here every day. It was safe, and it was a great time. So that's kind of when I learned those things.
On Louisville Road, I spent nights in every home there. Every home was my home. I had a set of parents from house to house to house. Those sets of parents also carried the word down if you needed discipline. Now, I had 5 houses that I had to pass before I reached my mother. But they were all homes, all open to everyone on Louisville Road. I must mention a couple of my good friends. Kenny Carberry, who were known as Glen and Ken. That's how close we were. Billy Pittman taught me a lot of things. Sports, especially basketball. So finally I became what he was in basketball. Joey Hoover, he was a younger one out of the group. His initiation, to cut a tree down by himself. Needed it for the fort. Once again, I can say that growing up on Louisville Road, every day was like a lifetime. Every backyard connected. No matter where you went, you were home. Thank you, Louisville Road.
I just want to say as kids, though, like we had so much creativity, and it was based on the fact of what we did not have. If we were playing baseball, and there was a cardboard box over there, and you rip it up and make it the bases. If you didn't have a baseball bat, you broke a tree branch, and it looked like the size of a bat. That's what you use. There was very few times to be bored. A piece of chalk could be an amazing tool that you could play with. A piece of rope. Anything. Food was shared. Box of cereal was joy. And I don't even believe we knew what we didn't have, because we were very rich in our abundance of life on Louisville Road. I mean, my grandfather, he had a garden that he had vegetables, flowers, he had chickens on Louisville Road. He built a sportsman's club so his sons and his friends could hang out. They had a baseball team, Lawrenceville Sportsman Club. My cousin Ernie Chester over there is one of the members of that club, and he's still here. And cherry trees, peach trees. He had a well, he pumped the well, the water was ice cold. And everything was simplistic, but there was an abundance of literally anything. And, you know, back then, when the street lights came on, it was time. When they started to flicker, that's where you developed your world-class speed. Because you had better been home when they come on and on your porch. You was good on the porch. Don't be coming around the corner after that light is on, because, and I don't condone this, but a switch would tighten you up back in those days. And whatever you did not do again. Once again, I do not condone that, but back then I guess it was necessary. We all sit up here, and I know I scrambled to put something down on paper about Louisville Road. I was jotting notes. I said, well, they only got so much time, and you guys are only getting a snippet of what we could sit around and talk about this little town community in Louisville Road. So I'm gonna pass the mic, but I'm very passionate about Louisville Road and the town of Lawrenceville. Also, we went to church. I don't know about, I'll speak about that when we talk about the Methodist Club.
I'm not real good with last name. we got together. After 65 years, we saved this final home in which I live in today. Thank you, Diane. Thank you very much. She made herself a family member.
Thank you. Honestly, as I was listening to your stories, I was just so moved because our generation now, and I'm sure my fellow classmates and peers can relate to this as well, when we think about these stories, we're so attached to our phones, we don't even know what a piece of chalk is. We don't ever go outside to draw on the beautiful concrete that this world has made, and the phones, they consume us. And when I hear these stories about Louisville Road, like, there's something in every single one of these panelists here, and in all of us, and that's Black joy. And you don't have to be a person of color to have Black joy. Everybody has Black joy inside of their hearts. And I just feel like it's so important for us to acknowledge that, and especially as youth, because we are the next generation, to embrace in that. Use the Black joy, because Black joy is so important. And as we see here, these are prime examples of how Black joy has shaped their lives and how it can shape our lives as well. So I'm gonna stop there. Okay, so our final question is, what memories do you have of the Mount Pisgah AME Church?
The one I had was one day I came outside, first one out, and I was playing in the driveway alongside the house, and I noticed a brick. So I removed some of the dirt that was over top of it and got the brick up. And then there was another one. And then another one after that. By that time, Mary Ferguson came by. We call her Sis. And she says, Glen, you're digging up the church. I said, okay, thank you. And I hastily put the bricks back. That's the first time that I even knew there was a church there, or what the significance of that church was. And thanks to a day like today, now I know. But growing up as a child there, the history was being made in front of me. And continues to this day.
Now, I'd be lying if I said I knew something about Mount Pisgah Church, AME. And when we were talking the other day, Glen, and he told me that story, that's the first I had heard of the bricks of Mount Pisgah Church. Now, when we were kids, there was a church at 61 Phillips Avenue called Hampton Hall Community Church. And that's where we all went to church. And under the direction of Reverend Clifford King. And so we all came up in that church. It was a one-room church. And we had people in the community that were our Sunday school teachers, Diane Harmon, Barbara Brooks, Debbie Sally. They were our mentors. Herman Planner. You had academics. You had educators in the church that taught us how to appreciate the Lord at an early age. So that was our church. It no longer exists now. It's a house at this point that people live in. But I do not have memories of that church. My blackness was cultivated between Lawrenceville and Louisville Road. My creative mind, my choice of music or appreciation of music, my athleticism, my musical and theatrical culture beliefs, my comedic side of my personality, and my intellect was all developed between those two towns, and a stint also in Eggers Crossing. Because that's a real live community down there with a lot of history too. Not to dissuade, not to redirect from Louisville Road, but I got to speak on my behalf of my establishment here in Lawrence Township. So as far as church goes and religious values go, Hampton Hall Community Church was our home and our refuge to appreciate the Lord.
I have to say that I was born after the church was there, so I don't really have any ties to the church per se for me. I do know that my Uncle Shell was baptized there, which is my Aunt Locke Bosley's husband, and I also know that my Uncle Shell and my Aunt Locke were married in that church, but the church was gone by the time I was being raised on Louisville Road. But we had a very strong relationship with the Mount Zion AME Church in Trenton. That's where we went. And I have a picture here, it's probably over 100 years old, I brought to share with the pastor from Mount Zion. As my grandmother, my Aunt Flo, my mother, my Aunt Frances, my Aunt Barbara, and my Aunt Picture all in the choir. And then I also have a picture that I was going to give to him with my grandmother and Reverend Odo. She was collecting scholarship money for the kids. And I brought a picture to give to that pastor. I know he said he had to leave early, but I just thought that I would do that. So I don't really have anything to say about that because I was born. So it's really the same thing. It's Mount Zion, and it's over 100 years old. It's the choir. My grandmother, my Aunt Flo, Turner, my mom, they're all in this choir. So we matriculated to Mount Zion area in Trenton after my sister, my generation.
So my answer is probably similar. I do know where the church resided, but as my mom just said, my grandmother belonged to Mount Zion, but I did specifically write down a couple of things about this question because I know my grandmother would want me to share. So while I may not know about that church, I do know about faith, and I do know about foundation. So, the Beans testified in the house, bear witness to Louisville Road's matriculation, and the ground speaks, and you listen. So I wrote that down because my grandmother, all around the house, in the garden, in the kitchen, all around, she always instilled faith in a way that prepared you for tough times. And I have such an appreciation for her for that. My grandmother was married because she provided it to me in a way that I was not fearful when tough times would come. I knew tough times could come, but I also knew that I would be okay in those tough times. I said love was in the kitchen and echoed in the creaks of the house. So we had visitors all the time. It was like a show, like you guys watch reality TV. I would run downstairs to the living room if I heard a new voice to see who it was. People passed through quite a bit, and I have distinct memories of their faces, not all of their names. But I remember that I would play with Julie, and we played hide and go seek. And rarely did I go in the basement, but a couple of times I did. And we had a cousin, I think her name was Shivers, is that right? She came in and she was like cool, she had beads in her hair and her top. And she said, did you know that the basement was part of Underground Railroad? And I think my eyes got as big as, I don't know, and I never played hide and go seek down there again. And as a kid, I was terrified, but as an adult, that was just so cool. I also want to talk, because history is super important, which is why we're here. I come from 2 powerhouse grandmothers. Of course, Mary, and then as was mentioned, the Edwards Crossing community. And they passed it on, so how can I not be resilient, compassionate, but most of all, a social change agent? In every room that I walk into, they've already paved the way. And as my mom has always said, your crown's already been ordered, right? So when we talk about social change, we talk about the Black community, we talk about Black history, we have this beautiful choir. The things that they instilled while I grew, glued to their hip, watching, learning, are the exact things that have made me who I am and who I hope encourage you as young people to be. I was a teacher, I don't know if you can tell, I'm trying to motivate you. But I definitely appreciate the history, and again, it goes back to faith. It always came back to faith. So that was something that was truly key. I do know that in a time where we are now, as you said, it's technology, and a lot of the core things in a foundation have gone by the wayside. But I firmly believe that I am who I am because of the importance and understanding the importance of community. I learned on Louisville Road. Faith, I learned on Louisville Road. And the importance of just the freedom to be whoever you want to be and explore that. That's my
Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Can we give them another round of applause?
Okay, I just want to say one more thing to my students here from Lawrence High Gospel Choir and any other students that are here from Lawrence High, where I work as a security monitor to ensure their safety so they can have a great education there. To you students, as you rise to your top, please don't forget where you came from. Reach back and help those who need and deserve your help. Always have perseverance and resilience. I believe that's one of the obligations as an African American person and to all persons that have a common cause to deny and accountability in this life. As you go about your mission and you have confidence, just remember this. Don't let anybody excuse or get into your confidence because of their shortcomings and their insecurities. Always strive to do better. Get the most out of your education in Lawrence Township School District. You have some wonderful things, wonderful teachers, some wonderful extracurriculars you can be a part of. So make a difference in this life. You may go through this world and hit some brick walls. You may be the best applicant for a position and you may not get a job. And it could be specifically about what color you are. And as we go through life in 2025, I don't remember a whole lot of bias back in the 50s and 60s when we were growing up on Louisville Road and in Lawrenceville. I believe our parents shielded us from that very well. Didn't know. I'm learning a lot of stuff now that was going on back then. And there was things going on. I remember a minstrel show and didn't understand what was going on. I remember a lot of things back there that struck a chord with me, that resonated with me as being prejudiced and shortcomings just about the color of my skin. I say this as an African American man. All I strive for, and I can speak for the people here, we just want to be equal. We want equality and justice for all, just like anybody else. So, I just ask for that because I'm going to make it out here at my age and point in this life. But all these kids in here, no matter what color they are, they got a rough road ahead of them out here. And it shouldn't be that hard because they work hard too. So God bless everybody in attendance here for coming out and hearing our story. And once again, you only have heard a small tidbit of what the bond that we have or had on Louisville Road. So thank you once again. And Taylor. I know you're going to the top. That is one of the hardest working young ladies in Lawrence High School. But don't do too much, don't short circuit. But you handling your business, and I am very, very proud of you, and I'm proud of all y'all.
So much, and that goes for my peers as well. I see all of you in the halls as well doing your big one, and I know all of us, we're so destined for big and amazing things. Adults, grandparents, aunties, uncles, everybody. We all can do it, and we can all make it in this life, no matter how many challenges are going our way. So now we're going to move on with our program. Panelists, you are dismissed. Thank you so much once again. Now we are going to welcome back our award-winning gospel choir for our closing selection.